how terrible is this? I live in this little town. I lived here all my life, and I got to lay here with my pistol on my lap to even feel safe.
Bailey Strohl here with Ozarks First. Today marks 10 years since a mass murder that sparked chaos and fear among residents of a small Missouri town. On February 26, 2015, a gunman shot and killed 7 people in several locations across the town of Tyrone, about 100 miles east of Springfield. Now, the killings by 36-year-old Joseph Jesse Aldridge marked the worst mass shooting in the history of Texas County. It's an area that doesn't see much crime. Before this, in 2015, and likely still today, it experienced an average of just 1 homicide per year. And this information is coming from several sources, including our own archive, CBS News, and the New York Times. Now, the video you're seeing is coming from our Ozarks First archive. Our station and crews learned a lot more about the murder and the victims the next day on February 27th, and that's also when they found the shooter, Joseph Jesse Aldridge's body. He died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. But first, let's talk about what happened on this day 10 years ago. Now, this mass shooting spanned across several different crime scenes, and eventually we learned that 7 people had been killed at 4 different homes. And here's what one man in town that we interviewed on the 27th had to say about the killings around this time 10 years ago.
Why it could happen or what would prompt someone to do that. That's what some of the things is hard to understand and to get through. All of us knew the families, and they were friends and a lot of relation, and they have children that's in our school system, so it's extremely difficult to deal with that in a community.
So police first heard of the shootings the night of the 26th. This is February 26th, 2015, when a teenage girl went to her neighbor's house saying she heard gunshots from her home, and then she fled. When deputies arrived at her house, they found that girl's parents, Gerald and Julie Aldridge, dead inside the home. Then about a quarter mile away, they found Gerald's brother, Harold, and his wife, Janelle, shot to death in their bedroom. That's when police started to alert the public, and chaos kind of started in that small town of Tyrone. Police telling people to stay inside and lock their doors, something they are probably not used to in this small, quiet town. And deputies started looking home to home, searching for victims. A little further away from those 2 scenes they had already found, 2 more victims were discovered. Daryl and Martha Shriver were both shot in their home. They were the shooter's neighbors. Daryl was killed, but Martha survived and was able to identify the shooter as Joseph Jesse Aldridge. 2 more victims were later found. It was Martha's son, Carrie, and his wife, Valeria, and they were found dead in their bedroom. Their son was in the house at the time. Fortunately, he was found unharmed, sleeping in another bedroom. So that is our 7 victims there. It seems they all knew each other. Of course, this is a tight-knit community. And then here's what deputies had to say about these murders as the investigation was still going on around this time 10 years ago.
A lot of bad stuff, and this is bad. This is also hard on the police officers who are working that there. It's not natural to see that sort of thing, and I'm sure they were as shocked as a lot of the people are, in this room.
So this is something that definitely shook the entire community of Texas County and beyond. What is interesting about all of this and kind of shows how tight-knit that community was. Of course, it is an unincorporated community. It's the town of Tyrone, but it's really just a group of homes in the rural Texas County area. What's interesting about this is all the homes showed no sign of forcing entry to get inside, but that's not entirely surprising because, again, it seems like the shooter and all the victims all knew each other. They likely didn't have to lock their doors. So now, who was Joseph Jesse Aldridge, and how did his life end? Here's a photo we have from CBS News from 10 years ago. Again, he was 36 at the time of these murders. He did have a prior record. It was from being found with possession of marijuana, and then he was found owning a gun as a felon, as a convicted felon. So he did serve some time for that, but that was the end of his rap sheet. He was a cousin of all of the male victims in this. All of the men that were killed, they were cousins. So his body was found on what would be 10 years ago tomorrow morning, the morning of February 27th. He was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound inside his pickup truck that was situated kind of in the middle of a 2-lane highway southeast of Somersville. And when we start to look at a motive, or when you kind of search for all of this and what was going on at the time, people were speculating, of course. A lot of these details are debated. But here's kind of what I found while researching. Some outlets did report at the time authorities believe that the gunman started the shooting spree after finding his mother dead on the couch. She had died from natural causes, probably cancer, is what many outlets reported. And then right after that is when the shooting spree started. But we don't know for sure if that was the motive. It also seems like there was some tension within the family and among the cousins at that time, maybe about jobs or a previous altercation they had had. So it seemed like there was a lot of tension in the family. And then his mother had just been found dead as well, of natural causes. So that's really what we know about Joseph Jesse Aldridge and the victims that were killed on this day 10 years ago. It marks the deadliest mass shooting in Texas County history. This is a very tight-knit community that doesn't see a lot of crime. You don't see us going out to Texas County often for homicides and things like that, even still today, 10 years later. So we are glad to have our archive to look back on and kind of remember these stories and look back on what we have covered in the past, whether it be tragedies and things of this nature. It's good that we've documented it, to at least to have the victims being lived on in some way. We can look back and remember the members of the Ozarks community that we lost 10 years ago. That's really all we have. That's the information we have. Again, this happened on February 26th into the 27th of 2015, and this is coming from our Ozarks First archive. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Bailey Strohl with Ozarks First.